Hello everyone, I'm Sara Sach and welcome back to my crochet channel. Today's video I'm going to show you how to crochet this gorgeous ombre pumpkin, and I added a nice ribbon and a beautiful floral pick. So it's super easy to make. It's a basic 2-row repeat. Now this particular pumpkin measures 10 inches tall and it's about 20 inches around, fully stuffed. So it's a nice size pumpkin. I love this particular yarn, and I'll talk more about yarn a little farther on in the video. And I wanted to do something that wasn't traditional, but October is Breast Cancer Awareness and Halloween. So with this particular yarn, I was able to combine those two without having to change yarns because it is an ombre yarn. And of course, you can do this in any colors that you want to. It's a really quick and easy pumpkin pattern that makes a lovely and adorable addition to your holiday decorating. And I think you could leave this out all the way through the end of November and it would look adorable in your decorations. Now you can find this crochet pattern and all the information with lots of pictures on my blog, and as always I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. So to make your own ombre pumpkin, you're going to need, of course, some yarn. And I used Mandala Ombre by Lion Brand. And you're going to need about 5.3 ounces, which is 1 cake of this yarn. This is a medium weight number 4. And you can see it's a fun ombre. It goes from a darker orange to a dark pink, a light pink, light orange, a little bit darker, and then it bleeds into the other colors. It's just a gorgeous yarn. All right, so you're going to need about 5.3 ounces of a medium weight number 4 yarn. You're going to need some ribbon, and this ribbon is just maybe 1.5 inches wide, and I chose to go with pink so that it would match and go with some of the pink in here. The amount of ribbon is up to you, how big you want to tie your ribbon, and as far as the width is also up to you, how small or how wide you want your ribbon to be. You're also going to need a floral pick, and I bought this one at my local Walmart. It was $1.38, and I loved it because it had this big orange flower with some leaves that are sparkly and hints of orange and a little bit of hint of pink in the leaves, and I think that's going to be perfect for this yarn. All right, now that's optional. You don't have to do that. I like that one for this because this isn't your typical orange pumpkin. It has a little bit different vibe going on, and so I thought it would be perfect with pink ribbon and a floral pick. Of course, you can just use a stem, a piece of cinnamon stick, maybe a stick out in your yard even. I've done that. So that's kind of up to you how you want to do the stem. We're going to be stitching today with our H-hook, which is a 5.0 millimeter crochet hook. You'll need a needle for weaving in ends, and then you'll also need your scissors. Oh, and don't forget, we're stuffing that baby, so we need some polyester fiber fill to stuff it. And I'm going to say 2 handfuls. Mine's in this enormous box, and so I don't really have it measured out. But it doesn't take very much, and it's kind of up to you how tightly you want to stuff your pumpkin. We're going to begin with our slip knot. And we're going to chain 32 chains. And remember to chain this initial chain just a little bit loose. So I'm going to loosely chain 32 chains. I have chained my 32 chains just a little bit loose, and we're going to begin by stitching a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So we'll just go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through both loops. All right, and so we're going to stitch 1 single crochet in each of our chains, working all the way across. I've stitched 1 single crochet in each of my chains. We began in the second chain from the hook, so I have 31 stitches or 31 single crochets. I'm going to chain 1 and turn. Now on this row and in every row after this, we'll be stitching in what's called the back loop only. And so if you look at the top of your stitches, you'll see there are loops on the front, which are the ones facing you, and the loops on the back, which are the ones facing away. And we'll be stitching in the back loop only on every row throughout the rest of this project. And what we're going to do is we're going to stitch 1 single crochet in the first 6 stitches, stitching in the back loop only. So we'll go in just that back loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I've stitched 6 single crochet, stitching in the back loop only. You'll know you've done that correctly if you see that ridge right there. Now in the next stitch, we're going to do what's called a 2 triple cluster. So we're going to put 2 wraps on our hook. We're going to go in just that back loop, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, go through the next 2, and now we're not going to finish it. We're going to put 2 wraps on our hook. We'll go in that same back loop, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, go through the next 2, and it'll look like you have 2 uncompleted triple stitches and then that first loop from the previous single crochet. We'll yarn over and go through all 3 of those loops. We'll push that forward, and now we're going to stitch a single crochet in the next 4 back loops. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you can see how that makes a nice little bump there. All right, now we've stitched 4 single crochets, and then in the next stitch we're going to do that 2 triple cluster again. So there's our 2 triple cluster, and so again we'll stitch 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so now we have 2 bumps, and we'll continue this across. And so now I have 4 bumps, and I've done those last 4 single crochets, and we have 5 stitches left. So we're going to do 1 more of our 2 triple cluster, and that leaves us 4 stitches to stitch 1 single crochet in each of those last 4 single crochet stitches. And we'll go ahead and chain 1. Now let's take a look at it. Now you'll have to push your bumps forward if they're not forward. And so we have 6 on this end, because this is going to be the bottom of the pumpkin. When we make, because we're going to be stitching rows like this back and forth, we'll join it as a tube. This will be the bottom where we have the 6 single crochets. And then you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets of our 2 triple crochet cluster and 4 single crochets. And that is the way that row 2 should look. All right, let's do row 3. Chain 1 and turn. Now again, our chain 1 here and on every row does not count as a stitch, and we're stitching in the back loops. But what we're going to do on row 3 is we're going to stitch a half double crochet in each of the stitches across. So we'll start right in that first one and we'll stitch a half double crochet in these first 4 stitches. That brings us to our cluster. Make sure you just stitch 1 half double crochet in that cluster, and then we'll move right to these 4 stitches and stitch 1 half double crochet in those next 4 single crochets, then 1 half double crochet in the top there of that cluster. And again, we're stitching in the back loops only, and that's going to make that lay nice on the front. All right, so for row 3, we're just stitching 1 half double crochet in each of the back loops of the stitches across. And again, make sure you only place 1 half double crochet in that cluster stitch. It's very easy to get off on this row, and even if your counts are off by 1, it's going to mess up the shape of your pumpkin. All right, so 1 half double crochet in each stitch across, stitching in the back loops only. I completed row 3, stitching 1 half double crochet in each of the stitches across. You need to make sure you have 31 half double crochets. This is what it looks like on the back. Chain 1, and we're going to turn it over, and this is how it looks on the front. We have those 5 bobble stitches or cluster stitches from row 2, and then a whole row of half double crochets. All right, so now we're going to repeat what we did on row 2. We're going to be stitching in the back loops only, and we're going to stitch a single crochet in the first 6 stitches. There's 3, 4, 5, and 6. And again, we have 6 on this end instead of 4 like the other end, because this is going to be the bottom of our pumpkin, and I don't want to bobble right down at the bottom, and so that's just going to help it lay a little bit flatter when we sit it up. All right, so let's do our 2 triple cluster, stitching in the back loop only again. We'll push it forward, and then we'll stitch 1 single crochet in the back loops only in the next 4. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then our 2 triple cluster or bobble. Some people call these clusters, some people call them bobbles. Bobble's a fun word to say, so I like to call them that. And also, I love the way they just pop out in the fabric. It just looks really nice. All right, so 1 single crochet in the next 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so now we have 2, and I'll continue this 3 more times to the end of this row. So basically, we're just repeating what we did on row 2. I completed row 4. We have those 6 single crochets. We have our 2 triple cluster, 4 single crochets, 5 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ending with 4 single crochets, and chain 1. All right, and so now what we're going to do for row 5 is we're just going to repeat what we did on row 3. So chain 1 and turn, and we're going to stitch a half double crochet starting in that first stitch, and we're going to stitch a half double crochet in each of the stitches all the way across. And remember to only place one half double crochet in that bobble or cluster stitch. If you accidentally add or subtract a stitch there, it's really going to mess up the shape of your pumpkin. And so I really want to let you know, be careful. And again, we are stitching in the back loops only. And just a reminder, we're stitching in the back loops only on every row. We're not switching backwards from back loops and front loops. It's all stitched in the back loops only. All right, so for row 5, 1 half double crochet in each of our stitches all the way across. All right, so I've done that row of half double crochets all the way across, stitching in the back loop only, chain 1 and turn. And so now we're going to repeat again our 2 cluster row. So we'll start with a single crochet in the first 6 stitches. All right, now we'll do our 2 cluster triple, or I guess it's our 2 triple cluster. Push it forward and then stitch 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then our 2 cluster. And as you work, you should see that your cluster stitches are all lining up. One, 2, 3, and 4. And so again, we're going to repeat this across so that we have 5 of our 2 triple cluster stitches with those 4 single crochets in between. And again, the only place we have 6 is at the beginning of that row. So again, I have 6 single crochets and then 5 sets of my 2 triple cluster with my 4 single crochets in between. All right, now we chain 1, we turn, and again we stitch 1 half double crochet starting in that first stitch and stitch 1 in each stitch across. And now I think you're starting to see how the 2-row repeat works for our pumpkin. All right, so now we're going to stitch 1 half double crochet in each of the stitches across. And remember, we're stitching every row in the back loops only. And at the beginning of each row, the chain 1 does not count as a stitch. So we're getting a super cute pumpkin with just a 2-row repeat. So I'm going to continue across as before, stitching 1 half double crochet in each of my stitches across, working in the back loops only. So I have completed that 7th row, and you can see how all my bobbles or 2 triple clusters are all nice and lined up. I'm going to kind of tilt that so you can see that a little better. So in order to complete your pumpkin, you're going to continue to repeat row 2, which is your bobble stitch or cluster stitch row, and row 3, which is your half double crochet row. All right, alternating every other row, always stitching in the back loops, and your chain 1 does not count as a stitch. All right, and that's going to give you the width of your pumpkin. So continue to repeat row 2 and row 3 20 more times. So here's my pumpkin. I have on this one, the other one was a demo. This is the actual pumpkin. We did those first 7 rows, and then I repeated those 2 rows 20 more times. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take it and fold it over with the right side on the inside, and we're going to put the 2 ends together, and we're going to stitch those together. We've got the 2 ends together, and I'm just going to turn this over so that the end where I stopped, I can put my crochet hook right through. And now we're just going to single crochet them together. So we're not going to worry about back loop only on this row. We're just going to go through that first stitch and the first stitch on this side and stitch a single crochet. And that's how we're going to stitch the front and back together. We're just going to stitch a row of single crochets. And if you stitched it right, you're going to have 31 stitches. And so you'll just stitch on each side all the way across. Single crocheting the front and the back together, and it forms a tube. And we'll work this all the way across. So I've stitched all the way up, stitching the front and back together. We're going to cut our yarn and tie that off. All right, then we'll grab our needle and go ahead and weave this in. And you want to make sure you weave this in securely, going through fibers and stitches. We don't want this side of our pumpkin coming undone. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and clip that. And then I'm going to take a minute and weave in this other side as well. And then I'll show you how to gather up the bottom and the top and stuff our pumpkin. So now that we've got the ends all weaved in, we're going to turn our pumpkin over to the front. And I always take a couple seconds to make sure all the bobble stitches are sticking out and, you know, looking pretty. I love this. I just really love the pink and the orange. It's kind of a color you wouldn't put together, as part of the reason that I really love it. Plus, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so we've got pink and Halloween, orange. I just really love this particular yarn for this project. Okay, so when you look at it, you can see we have our side with our 6 single crochets and our side with our 4. We're going to gather the 4 first. This is the top, and we're going to gather that up first. So we're going to grab some yarn, I don't know, about 16 inches, probably more than you need. Thread that on our needle. We're going to go where that seam is, and I seamed it so nicely I cannot find it. There it is. All right, and we're just going to go in and out. Leave a nice tail of yarn. And we're going to go in and out all the way around the top of our pumpkin. We're not going to close it completely because this is going to be the top, and we want to put that ribbon and our pick, our floral pick in. All right, but we do want it to look nice and closed. And so I'm just going around the top till I get back here. I'm going to undo that, pull this so it gathers up, and I'm just going to take these 2 ends and pull, and it's closed pretty much, but there's room in there to push that pick in, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and tie this. And we're going to put that pick in last. But we want to stuff our pumpkin and then close up the bottom. There we go. That's nice and secure. But you can see we do have just a little bit of an opening to slide in our floral pick. All right, so now we're going to grab that stuffing and stuff our pumpkin. All right, here we go. Pull off some stuffing. Make sure you get it all the way to the top. And again, it's up to you how full you want your pumpkin, how much stuffing that you want to put in it. And you can shape it also after you've got it stuffed so that you know if you wanted to add more. And once you get it sewn closed, you can also add a little more. I'm going to add just a little bit more right down here in the bottom, like that. And like I said, we'll shape it more after we get it in there. I just want to make sure I've got enough for what I want. So now I'm going to cut another piece of yarn and we're going to gather it the same way we did the top. Only this time we're going to make sure it's nice and securely closed. All right, so where's my seam? There it is. And we'll just start there. And again, work our way around right up on that edge. And leave a nice tail for tying a knot closed. Okay, and this is kind of why I left 6 single crochets at the bottom and not just 4 like the top, because we don't want it to roll around on those bobble stitches. We want it to have a nice flat bottom. If you want to add some of the poly beads or even some leftover beads or buttons in the bottom to give it a little bit of weight, you certainly can. I have done that in the past, but I'm not doing it on this particular one. All right, so I'm all the way around. I'm going to give this a nice pull. Stuffing sticking out. Let me poke that in there. All right, I'm going to give it a nice pull. And I'm going to give it a tie here. But what I'm going to do, because this is the bottom and we don't want this coming out at all, I left one side a little bit longer and I'm going to go around again just to make sure it's not going to open up. All right, so I'm going to go all the way around again, just going through those stitches. Because I don't know about you, but my grandkids love to throw things around like this and play with them and just have a good time. So I want them to stay, you know, sturdy. All right, so then I'm going to take my yarn and go across a couple of times on the bottom. You know, this may be a decoration, but I want it to be able to be played with also. All right, and now I'm just going to tie those knots. Pull them tightly, 1, 2, and then that other knot I like to do for my 3rd knot. Every week someone tells me what it is and gives me a different name. I don't care what it's called. I just love using that knot. All right, so now the bottom is all secure. My pumpkin's a little wonky, so I'm just going to sort of shape it. You can pull that stuffing around. I think that is adorable. All right, so there's my pumpkin itself. It's going to sit like this. Those bobble stitches going around. And now I'm going to show you how to add your floral pick and this pretty ribbon. So I cut about, I don't know, 16, 18 inches of the ribbon. I've got it on my floral pick there, and I'm just going to make a bow. All right, I want it to be able to scoot up. And I'm doing what's called the 2 dog ear bow or the 2 cat ear bow. You just make 2 bunny ears, whatever animal. And I think it makes a nice bow. Okay, and we're going to try to push that up. Okay, now if you want to add another piece, I've got 2 pieces here. You can take this piece and kind of bring it up underneath so that you have some more, and I'm just going to tie this in a knot. And I'm doing this just to have a little bit more of a tail on my pumpkin like that. I'm going to tie another little knot there. That way it can kind of hang down also. And I'll trim that if need be. Okay, I'm going to kind of bend my flower. I'm going to kind of bend these out. I want them to kind of lay a little more flat. You know, I'm just sort of adjusting it. Okay, so this is the bottom where we have the 6. This is the top where we left a little bit of a hole. And I'm just going to take this pick. You can see it has a long stem on it. I'm going to bend the stem just a little. That's going to help it catch some of that stuffing. I'm going to kind of spin it around and shove it down in there. Okay? And I want to make sure that I set this so that you can see both the pink and the orange. So I'm just going to work this around a little bit. And my flower came off. Let's pop that back on there. There we go. And, you know, just play with it until it looks the way that you really, really like. Bring that bow around there. And there you have it. I think I am going to trim these a little bit. I'm just going to, just a little, so they're not quite so long. And I love that. It's so pretty. Isn't that gorgeous? I just love it. That's my ombre pumpkin. I can't wait to go set this out front. Although I'm not putting it in the front yard. I'm going to put it in the entryway.